everyone. This is the first session of main course in the 4th module, and today we are going to cover the Unit 10's and 12's grammar points. So let's start with Unit 10. In Unit 10 we are going to cover the expression of quantity and also infinitive and gerunds. So let's start with the quantifiers. What is a quantifier? Quantifier is a word or a phrase to talk about quantities, amount, or degree. They can be used with a noun as a determiner or can be used without a noun as the pronoun. So, to make this easier, let's look at this chart. Let's start with this, the first thing that we know, sum. Sum means a limited quantity, and we can use sum in countable and uncountable nouns, and also we use it in only positive sentences. But there's something that you should know. In sum, we have an exception, and we can use some questions, but that question should be a request or an offer. Like, look at this example here. I put some jam on my bread. So this jam is uncountable, right? So we can use some with uncountable nouns, like I put some jam. But when we're using some in questions, what we do is that we're requesting or we're offering something, like, would you like some tea? It means that we have the tea and we're offering it. Let's look at the other quantifier here, any. In any, we don't know the definite quantity or unknown quantity. So we're using it again in countable and uncountable nouns, and we use any in we use any in negative and questions. We don't use any in positive sentences. If we look at the example here, like, we don't have any butter in the fridge, or we can make it as question, do we have butter in the fridge? So we can use any in countable and uncountable nouns, but only in negative or questions. And we have this few, fu. Fu is used only with countable nouns, and we use them in positive sentences. But there's a difference between a few and the few. A few means that it is enough, something that you're talking about is enough, the exact thing that you need. Few means that it is not enough. So if you look at the example here, like, I have a few friends whom I can count on. It means that I have enough friends I can trust, I can rely on. But when we're talking about few, she was new at the school and she had few friends, so she didn't have enough friends. Okay. And when we look at a little or the little, so we use a little or the little with uncountable nouns in positive sentences. And again with the few, a little means enough and little means not enough, all right? So if we look at here, for example, I have a little money left, so I can afford a cup of coffee. It means that I have enough money to buy a cup of coffee and not many. Or I have little money, so I'll walk home instead of taking a taxi. It tells us that I don't have enough money to take a taxi, so I'm just going to go walk, okay? So we use fu with countable nouns, a little or little with uncountable nouns. All right, so let's go over with the other quantifiers. We have much, many, and a lot of. All these three have the same meaning. They talk about a large quantity, but there is a difference between them. So when we look at much, we use much with only in uncountable nouns and nothing else. And we use much in negative sentences or questions. And let's say that we use much in positive sentences. That means that that sentence is formal. We use much or many only in formal style. Let's look at the example here. For example, is there much unemployment in that area? So it tells us that unemployment is uncountable. So we use it with much. Or many. Many only used with uncountable nouns, and we use it again in negative or questions. And if you want to use many in the positive sentence, that sentence should be formal again. And let's look at the example here. How many eggs are in this cake? Again, eggs, countable nouns. Then we can use this eggs with many. Right. And the last one is a lot of. a lot of is much less formal than many or much, and we can use a lot of with countable, uncountable nouns, and we can use it in every type of sentence, like positive, negative, or questions, doesn't matter. But do not forget that a lot of is less formal than many or much. And let's look at the examples here. That's a lot of money. Money is uncountable, but we can use it with a lot. And we're saying that a lot of money with a positive sentence, or there weren't a lot of choices. Choices, that plural tells us that that choice is countable. And as you can see that in the sentence, it is a negative sentence. So we can use a lot of with every type of sentence that we want. All right, let's look at this other quantifiers. No. As you can guess, no has a negative meaning. So we can use no with countable or uncountable nouns, but we use it in a positive sentence. Why? Because the form should be positive so that the meaning can be negative. You know that we cannot use double negatives in English. So that's why what we have to do is that we have to use the positive form, but the meaning should be negative. Like, she says she has no friends. That means that she doesn't have any friends. But as you can see here, we don't have any negativity here, only no. So the form should be positive, but the meaning is negative. All right? So plenty of. Plenty of is similar to a lot of, okay? And it has the meaning of a lot or a large quantity. We can use it with, again, countable or uncountable nouns, and we use it in the positive sentences like here. Don't worry, there are plenty of options. See that we have the positive sentence, and we can use the sentence, we can use this plenty of to say a lot of. And lastly, enough. Enough means that as much as we need or want. So when we're talking about something that we need, but not much more than that, not less than that, we can use enough. And we can use enough with countable or uncountable nouns and every type of sentence. Let's look at the example here. Like, do you have enough money to pay for your train fare or taxes? As you can see, enough money. Money, again, uncountable, and we can use this enough with it. So that's it about the quantifiers. Let's go on with something that we have covered, but we'll revising again. Gerunds. What is gerunds? Let's first of all talk about it. Gerund is a type of verb that is transformed into a noun, that function as a noun, so that names an activity rather than a person or a thing. And any action verb can be a gerund. Can be made into a gerund. So let's start. What is the uses of gerund? So gerund can appear at the beginning of a sentence when used as a subject. So we can use this gerund as the subject. For example, jogging is a hobby of mine. The actual verb here is. Jogging. Jog is normally a verb, but that is turned into a noun. And that noun is a subject. So we can use gerund as a subject that is a noun now to talk about it. Or we can use gerunds as an object following the verb. Like here, Daniel quit smoking a year ago. So Daniel is our subject, quit is the verb, the actual verb. And after quit, we use gerund because to talk about an object, smoking, then we can use gerund here. Or we can use gerund that can serve as an object after a preposition. I look forward to helping you paint the house. After this I look forward to, we use gerunds. But do not forget that this I look forward to is a special phrasal. So after to, normally we use verb based, but this look forward to is important because after this only we use gerund. Do not forget that. Normally after this infinitive to, we don't use ings. Okay, these are the verbs that can be followed by gerunds, okay? So do not forget that we don't add the ing form to these verbs. We add the ing form, the verbs that come after these verbs. All right, So let's talk about the infinitive. Infinitive is a verb form that acts as a other part of the speech in a sentence. It is formed with the to with base form of the verb. And infinitives can be used as an object following the verb, like the gerund. Jim always forgets to eat. So Jim is the subject here, forget is the actual verb, the real verb, and to eat is the object. Or we can use infinitive as a subject at the beginning of the sentence, like to travel around the world requires a lot of time and space. So the actual verb here is this requires, and to travel around the world is the infinitive, is a subject. Or we can use infinitive as an adverb modifying a verb, like you promised to buy me a diamond ring. And lastly, we can use this infinitive to talk about an adjective modifying a noun. For example, Tara has the ability to succeed. Again, we have this adjective is turned into a noun. And after these verbs, we can use infinitive forms. Again, do not forget that after we use these verbs, then we use this infinitive to something. Okay. But there are exceptions, like there are always exceptions. So, some verbs can take either gerund or infinitive, but there's a change in their meaning. So let's look at them one by one. Let's start with the forget. If we use forget with infinitive, forget to, then the meaning is, for example here, I forgot to meet him. It means that I didn't meet him because I forgot, because I didn't remember to go. If you use forget to, the infinitive form, you mean the actual meaning of the forget. But if you use forget with ing form, I forgot meeting him, it means that I in fact did meet him, but I don't remember it. I don't remember the memories of meeting him. And go on. Go on means continue something. And if we use go on to with infinitive form, it means that you finish something, then you start something new. For example, he went on to learn English and French. It tells us that, so before, let's say English and French, he learned Italian. It tells us that he first finished Italian, now he continue with English and French if we use it with the infinitive form. But if we use it with the gerund form, he went on learning in English, it means that he started learning English and French and he's still continuing to learn English and French. He didn't stop. Okay, and about this quit. Quit means that you stop working somewhere or you give up. So, for example here, she quit to work here. If we use quit with infinitive, it tells us that you quit, you stop going to another work in order to go work in another work. Let's give an example. Like, let's say that you were working in a car company. Now you work in a beauty company. Okay, so you quit to work in a car company to work at this beauty company. So you had a job, but you changed your job. But with quit working, ing form, it tells us that you stop working altogether. Like, she quit working here, it means that she doesn't work here anymore. Alright, regret. Regret is that you wish that something didn't happen or something like that. So, I regret promising to help you. With ing form, you say that I am sorry I made that promise, I feel sorry. But if you say that I regret to tell you we can't hire you, I'm telling you now and I am sorry. Do not forget that if you use regret with infinitive form, you always give a sad news. Like, I regret to tell you, but your mother had passed away, something like that. If you use regret with to, you always give some bad news. And remember. So when you're talking about the remember, for example, she remembered to visit her grandmother. It means that she visited her grandmother. She didn't forget it. She visited her. But if you're using remember with ing form, she remembered visiting her grandmother, it tells us that she's remembering the memories. She's recollecting the memories of meeting her grandmother. Okay? There's a kind of a nostalgia in that one. And stop. So if you stop with infinitive form, I stopped to call you, it tells us that I was doing another job, but in order to call you, I stopped doing it. For example, right now I'm telling a lesson, right? So I stopped the lesson so that I can call you, like this. But if you stopped with ing form, I stopped calling you, it tells us that you don't do this activity anymore. You stopped it altogether, and you're not doing it. And lastly, try. So we use try with infinitive form to talk about something that you try to succeed, but you failed in the end. You don't succeed it. For example, I try to open the window. I attempt to open the window, but I can't do it. I can't succeed it. There's a failure in this one. If you use try with to, there will always be a failure. I tried to open it, but I couldn't. But if you use try with the ing form, I tried opening the window, it tells us that there was an option, I opened it, okay? When you're talking about the options, you can use this try with the verb gerund form. Okay, so this is it about the Unit 10's grammar points. Now we are going to talk about the Unit 12's grammar points, which are third conditional and models about the past deduction. So, third conditional. What do we know about conditional is that conditionals are the events that depends on another event. So if you do this, if you want to do something, you have to finish another thing. There is always a condition. And the third condition is that we use it when we want to imagine a different past. Something that maybe we regret, like, oh, I wish that it didn't happen, but it happened. We're just imagining a different situation, or when we imagine a different past where something did or did not happen, and we imagine a different result. For example, if I had played better, I would have won the game. But I didn't play better, and I didn't win something. So, but I'm just wishing that, I wish that it happened, but it didn't. We're just imagining now. Or it would have been easier if George had brought his own car. But in reality, George didn't bring his car, and situation was difficult. So we're just imagining a different result in the past. So what is the form of this third conditional? Third conditional's form is the thing that we have covered in 2 weeks ago, the past perfects. So in the conditional, in the if clause, we have to use if with past perfect, like if they had left earlier. In the main clause, we mainly use would, but we can use should, might, or could with have and past participle. Like if they had left earlier, they would have arrived on time, but they didn't leave early and they didn't arrive on time. We're just imagining, okay? And we mostly use would with have and past participle. Do not forget that. But according to our meaning, we can use should, might, or could. Okay, so let's revise on the conditionals that we have covered so far. Let's start with the 0 one. 0, when you're talking about facts, things that are generally true or scientific facts, like the condition always are going to give you the same result. And if you stand in the rain, you get wet. Well, that's always, isn't it? Like, if you don't have an umbrella or anything, there's pouring, and you're going to get wet eventually. So when you're talking about something has the same result, that is something scientific, then you use 0 conditional. And in the condition part, you use present simple, and the result part, again, you use present simple. Or if you heat the ice, it melts. So there's nothing in the world that would stop the ice melting, right? And if we go to the first conditional, we use first conditional to talk about a possible situation in the future that is something likely to happen, or you're just predicting a result in the future if the condition happens, then we can use this first conditional, something that is real and that is a point, that is a possibility of happening. Like if it rains, we will cancel the trip, like here, or if you study, you will pass the exam. So this is not certain that you are going to pass the exam, but if you study, if the condition happens, maybe you will pass the exam. There's a possibility. When you're talking about a possibility that can happen in the real life, in the future, then you use first conditional. And in the condition part, you have to use with if, present simple, and in the result, the main clause part, you have to use will or won't with the verb one. And if we go to the second conditional, you're talking about an imaginary situation, okay, that is hypothetical or unlikely to happen or impossible to happen. And you're talking about unreal or improbable situation now or in the future. Do not forget that. You're talking about here unreal events, but that is, you're talking about now or the real event, not like here. In here, you talk about the past, but in the second conditional, you talk about now or the future. And, for example, if I won the lottery, I would travel a lot. See, but I didn't win the lottery. I mean, there's nothing, it's kind of impossible to win the lottery. So what you do is that you just imagine things, unreal things. Then you say, if I won, I would travel. So in the condition part, what you do is that you use, in the second conditional, if with past simple, then you use it with would plus verb one. And last thing that we have covered, the third conditional. Third conditional is that you're imagining a different past. You're wishing that something didn't happen, but it happened. You're just wishing that, I wish that it happened. And you're talking about imaginary situation that did not happen. So, for example, if you had studied, you would have passed the exam. Did you study? No. Did you pass? Again, no. So you're just imagining something. And you use, in the condition part clause, you use past perfect, and in the result, main clause part, you use would, have, and verb one, past or gone, okay? All right, that's it about the conditionals in English language. And let's cover the models. But in this one, we're going to talk about the past deductions. What is deduction? That you guess something, deducting something, like Sherlock Holmes, okay? So we can use models, verbs for deduction, and guessing if something is true using the available information. And the modal verb we choose shows how certain, how sure we are about the possibility, okay? And we're doing these for the past events. Let's look at it. Must have. So we use must have with verb 3, past participle, when we feel sure, when we feel very certain that something had happened, okay? Let's look at the example here. For example, the thief must have had a key. The door was locked, nothing was broken. So we're so sure that the thief had the key because the available information tells us that the thief must have had a key. Or, oh good, we have got some milk. Amy must have bought some yesterday. So we have the milk now. We're thinking, I didn't buy it, so probably Amy did. So Amy must have bought. Must have bought when we're talking about something we're so sure about, okay? Okay, so might have or may have. We can use this might have or may have with past participle again to when we think that it's possible that something happened. 50-50 chance, not like here. In must have, you're 100% sure. But in might have or may have, you're 50%, 60% sure. For example, I think I might have left the air conditioning on. Please, can you check it? I'm not so sure. Can you check it? Or police think the suspect may have left the country using a fake passport. Again, there's a 50% chance of it. And we're just guessing something is possible or not. Okay? And may have is more formal than might have. So when you're writing something, let's say academic, try to use more may have, not might have. And in this context, you can also use could have, but it is less common, okay? All right, so when we're talking about something that is impossible, that is not possible in any way, then we can use can't have or couldn't have. So again, we have to use them with verb 3, can't have or couldn't have, okay? And we're talking about past deductions. Don't let this can't fool you, okay? Can't can be used for past as well. Do not forget that. For example, she can't have driven there. Her car keys are still there, here. So we're talking about an impossible situation. If the car keys are here, how can she open the car? Or, I thought I saw Adam this morning, but it couldn't have been him. He's in Greece now. The person who is in Greece, I can't saw him. So when we're talking about impossible situation, it's not possible, then we can use can't have or couldn't have. And lastly, should have. Should have is used again with past participle to talk about things we regret, things that we wish that had ended differently. For example, I got really wet walking home last night. I should have taken an umbrella. So I regret that I didn't take an umbrella. Now I'm soaking wet. Or I'm really tired today. I shouldn't have stayed awake so late last night. So again, I did stay awake, and now I regret it. I should have just gone to bed earlier. So let's just, hold on, check them one more time. So when you're talking about past deductions, past guessing, you use must when you're so sure that something had happened with verb 3. Always use verb 3. Or when you're 50% sure that something might happen, something that is possible, then you have to use might have or may have. When you're using something that you're very sure that it didn't happen, it's impossible, then you can use can't have or couldn't have. And lastly, when you're talking about something that you regret, that you wish that it didn't happen, then you can use should have. All right, everyone. So for this session's homework is that for Unit 10, I want you to do New Language Leader Intermediate books, page 144 and 45. And for Unit 12, what I want you to do is that do the page 148 and 49. This is your homework for this main course this week, okay? Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.